What is good, Raider Nation? It's your boy Raider Alex back with yet another video for you guys. Anybody that is new to the channel, you guys love Raider related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. That being said, let's just jump right into the topic of this video. The NFL draft is right around the corner, only days away, and we're getting some news and reports about what the Raiders could potentially do come draft night, and some of these moves could determine the future of the franchise and what direction we want to go in, specifically in the quarterback room. And also a young player that we drafted a couple years ago could potentially be on the move come draft night, so we'll just have to see what happens there. But the first report comes from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, who has reported that the Raiders are a team that has Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe on their radar for the 2025 NFL draft. The Raiders recently confirmed that they're open to drafting a quarterback this season, and Milroe could be a great fit for us. Jeremy Fowler mentioned the fact that he likes the idea of Jalen Milroe joining the Raiders, especially since he could learn from a veteran quarterback like Geno Smith for a couple seasons before taking the starting role. And look, this is definitely an interesting topic because Jalen Milroe is a quarterback that typically, I don't love these type of quarterbacks that have issues when it comes to throwing the football, especially when it comes to accuracy, their mechanics, things of that nature. But with Jalen Milroe, I mean, the one thing you do have to take into consideration is the guy has a lot of upside. He's a dynamic athlete at the quarterback position. And ultimately, he's only got 2 years under his belt in college football. He's still young. He definitely has room to grow in his game. And another thing that you have to take in consideration, like Jeremy Fowler said, he's not going to be a quarterback that will have to start year one for the Raiders. So that's a perfect situation for a guy like him. He really needs to sit down for the bare minimum, learn the offensive playbook, learn what it is to become a pro at the next level, and ultimately just work and refine his game. And also too, I really like the offensive coordinator the Raiders have currently with Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly is a good offensive-minded play caller that always plays to the strengths of his personnel, and the quarterback is no exception. He also has familiarity with quarterbacks that are, seen as these run-first type of quarterbacks. So ultimately, I definitely see the Raiders being a good situation for a quarterback prospect like Jalen Milroe. And ultimately, like I said, the upside is just so hard to deny with a guy like Jalen Milroe. You're talking about a guy that in 2 seasons in the SEC as well, this is against premier competition, you're talking about a quarterback that had 60 total touchdowns in 2 seasons. Now, obviously, we're also including the rushing touchdowns, but in today's NFL, that's a major threat. You're seeing teams, and the just overall trend is starting to go towards the dual threat quarterback. So ultimately, I definitely like the idea of selecting Jalen Milroe. Now, the only thing is, where are they going to select him? I think more than likely Jalen Milroe will either be a late first-round pick, or he could potentially fall to the second round. Honestly, if he fell to us in the second round, I would not mind us taking a gamble on Jalen Milroe. And look, I definitely will admit it is going to be a gamble. He does need a lot of development, mainly when it comes to a passer, being consistent with his accuracy, his overall mechanics. But at 6'2", 225 pounds, a guy that can rub a sub 4.4, 40-yard dash, got a cannon for an arm, a guy that rushed for 20 rushing touchdowns in a season. The upside is there. I would not mind it, especially considering the fact that he's not going to have to start. And that's the biggest thing to me, because a couple years ago, there was a quarterback in Anthony Richardson that initially during the draft process, I definitely liked his skill sets. I definitely liked the idea of getting a high potential developmental quarterback like him, but he ended up going super early on in the draft. So that's why in the second round, I am all for the Raiders potentially taking a gamble on a guy like Jalen Milroe. We'll just have to see if this report is true, if the Raiders legitimately have some interest in him. Like I said, he could also potentially go in the late first round. We'll just have to see how the quarterback situation ends up panning out come draft night. But another thing I wanted to jump into is a report from ESPN's Adam Schefter, and that is the fact that he has stated that the Raiders might be open to trading their former first round pick edge rusher Tyree Wilson during the NFL draft. Now, Tyree Wilson's a guy who's only 24 years of age. We drafted him 2 seasons ago in the 2023 NFL draft with the 7th overall pick. And he's a guy, 6'7", 275 pounds. Is another guy that, had a lot of upside, had a lot of potential just due to the physical nature and stature this guy brings to the table, how strong he is. But his biggest issue was he was not healthy when we drafted him. He really missed the entire offseason program during his rookie season, which definitely affected his performance in his rookie season, his overall development. But at this point, I mean, he's already had 2 full seasons. He's had a full NFL offseason. And the biggest concern to me is that we really seen little to no improvement when it comes to his ability as a pass rusher. When you talk about Tyree Wilson, he's a super one-dimensional player as an edge rusher. He relies solely on his strength on that bull rush, which, sometimes he can definitely get by and make some plays in that aspect. But if he wants to become a top player in his position, he's going to have to develop another move in his arsenal. He's going to have to be better off the edge using his speed and just in general do a better job with his hands. Develop a spin move, develop something. And that's really what he hasn't done thus far in his early career. So it's definitely, so far it's been disappointing for Tyree Wilson. The physical traits are all there. It's just a matter of fact of whether or not he can put the work in to develop and improve as a pass rusher. The Raiders did re-sign edge rusher Malcolm Koonce. And if the Raiders front office are looking to move Tyree Wilson, that could just mean they're not confident in him. They are going all in on Malcolm Koonce. They may even address the defensive line position in the draft. And is another guy like Aiden O'Connell. We've also got reports that he may be traded come draft night. It's another guy that could be on the outside looking in with a new regime with Pete Carroll, John Spytek. They could be moving on from Tyree Wilson. Now, a big question mark is, what could we potentially get for Tyree Wilson? I mean, he still has upside. He's still 6'7", 275 pounds. He's elite when it comes to strength and all that. But like I said, he's one-dimensional. What can you realistically get for Tyree Wilson? I mean, honestly, if you could get anything close to like a 3rd round pick, I can definitely understand them making that move. But honestly, at this point, I don't even know if a team is willing to take that type of risk and gamble on Tyree Wilson. So it's also going to be interesting to see. I mean, if a team's only offering you like a 5th round pick, 6th round pick, something crazy like that, I mean, you can make the argument that it might just be better to keep him on the roster. At the bare minimum, he will be a good rotational piece on this defensive line. He also has showcased some versatility as they have used him in the interior of the defensive line before. And he's had some good reps there. So that's something to take into consideration as well. But Tyree Wilson, definitely unfortunate situation for the Raiders. And, it definitely doesn't help the fact that a guy like Jalen Carter was right there. He was right in the Raiders' grasp, and they chose to go in a different direction. But, we'll just have to see what happens on draft night. And last but not least, the NFL draft is right around the corner. The Raiders have the 6th overall pick. And just in general, I will say this year in the NFL draft, the interesting thing about the draft for me this year is the fact that most years there's always at least like 3, 4, maybe blue chip prospects, especially when it comes to the top 5. There's a lot of players that, most NFL draft experts have continuously mocked certain players. Like last year, we kind of all knew that the top 3 was very likely going to be quarterbacks off the board. We knew it was going to be Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and more than likely Drake May, and that's exactly how the draft board panned out. But I feel like this year in the NFL draft, the only pick that most people are very confident in is that Cam Ward will be selected number 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans. But after that, there's a lot of question marks. Some people think Cleveland are going to go Travis Hunter. Some people think Shedeur Sanders, Myles Garrett. And the list really goes on and on with the teams after that. The Giants, do they take a quarterback? Do they try to trade back as well? The Patriots are a team that, with having a young quarterback in Drake May, I think very likely they're either taking offensive line, whether that be left tackle, Will Campbell, or they could even potentially go running back. Jacksonville Jaguars, a couple different ways they could go as well. They could add a wide receiver option for Trevor Lawrence. They could also go best player available if a guy like Mason Graham falls to them. There's just a lot of uncertainty with how the draft board will fall come draft night. And that's really going to be super interesting for the Raiders at number 6, because there could be a situation where a great player falls into their lap, and at that point they can either just pull the trigger, select best player available, or maybe another team really likes that player that is beginning to fall. They make a trade up with the Raiders, and there's really just a multitude of different directions the Raiders could go in with the 6th overall pick. Do they go Aston Gentry? Do they bolster the offensive skill positions with a guy like Gentry, or do they go with T-Mac? If a guy like Mason Graham falls, you could argue that the defensive line isn't a huge need, but at the same time, it's never a bad idea to add talent to the defensive line room, especially if they're going to move on from a guy like Tyree Wilson. Also, I think cornerback is a huge need for this team. I would not be shocked if they selected the top cornerback in this year's draft, in my opinion, Will Johnson. There's just a lot of different ways the Raiders could go in. And I think that's kind of how they built this offseason. They address certain positions. They're not really desperate in one specific position, which kind of helps us. But at the same time, there's a lot of different holes on this roster. So that's why I see it kind of hard for the Raiders to mess up this pick. But you never really know, man, especially being a Raiders fan. We have gone through our fair share of bad moments in the NFL draft, specifically in the first round.
What the fuck, y'all? God damn!
Alex Leatherwood.
Bruh.
Hopefully that doesn't happen. If I had to make a prediction, I think we're going to go defense. Like I said, I would not be shocked if we selected a guy like Will Johnson with the 6th overall pick. But Raider Nation, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below of what the Raiders could potentially do come draft night. Do you think the Raiders should consider taking a gamble on Jalen Milroe in the 2nd round? What do you think about Tyree Wilson potentially getting moved? And what do you guys think the Raiders are going to do with their 1st round pick this season? Let me know in that comment section down below. But with that being said, Raider Nation, that is all for you guys in today's video. Anybody that is new to the channel, you guys love Raider related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. That being said, I will see you guys in the next one.